Hello and welcome back to the channel. Hi if you're new here, hi if you're not. If you are new here, maybe you didn't know that I used to be a yoga teacher. I used to own a private mobile yoga service, yoga studio. I would pack all the mats and the blocks in my car and I would drive around from house to house, cottage to cottage, delivering private yoga classes for people until a few years later when I purchased my first house. We converted part of the house into a private studio space and I began teaching one-on-one classes at home, offering mobile services. The pandemic came. I was teaching online classes. I have done it all. And I share all this because today's story hits very close to home. In fact, if you ever hop on YouTube and you search how to build a yoga business, you will see that there are endless amounts of videos of yoga teachers promising to teach you the secrets to build a successful yoga business. And today's story is no different. We are going to be listening to an individual, a yoga teacher, who fell prey to a how to build a yoga business scam. And I think because this one is so deeply personal to me, that's why I wanted to share it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the story and see how this all plays out. I'm a yoga teacher and I fell victim to an online coach / yoga teacher whose niche is helping other yoga teachers build their online business. In the beginning, before I ever booked a discovery call, I followed her content closely. It resonated with me so much because she talked about the challenges of trying to teach yoga for $20 a class, running yourself ragged by driving all over the town to different studios to cobble together a living. I've been teaching yoga for 20 years. In the beginning, I did exactly that. I took every teaching gig I could get. I worked myself so hard that I was exhausted and my body was breaking down. Injuries, constant pain, long recovery periods. Now I only teach 1 or 2 classes a week and I hold down a full-time job in a completely different field to make my living. So when I came across this person's account, I was invested. She seemed to offer a solution to the $20 a class, 17 classes a week grind. Go online, take your teaching to the masses. She boasted about making $358,000 the first year of going online. The implication being that if you used her proven method, you too could have that level of success. Okay, I did think it would be important for us to look at this woman's content. This individual did actually link the coach. And so I thought we could watch a couple of her videos just to kind of get a feel of how she markets herself, how she speaks to potential clients. Because when it comes to the people, the yoga teachers specifically, that teach other yoga teachers how to have a successful yoga teaching business, I am often highly skeptical of how much of their money was made from the process of actually teaching yoga versus how much money was made in their business from teaching other yoga teachers. So I'm curious to see how much of her story she shares in her content. So let's take a look at her Instagram.
20 classes a week and I still couldn't make ends meet. Have you ever felt like that? You're driving all over trying to make it happen, but the reality is that the system is set up in such a way that an individual yoga teacher is never going to make it. I decided to go online and it made all the difference. In the first 3 years that I was online, I made over $357,000. That's a lot different than making $20 a class and driving all over, don't you think? But here's the really cool thing. I helped a lot more people and I was able to narrow down on what it is that I really enjoyed teaching, which, as you know, if you're teaching in person, you just got to teach to whoever comes in the room. So listen, if you want to build an online yoga empire, tap the follow button and let's be friends.
Okay, so couple things. First one, it sounds like she actually made the $350,000 over the course of 3 years. It wasn't her first year online. It was cumulative, I guess, across those 3 years. And it's still not clear to me how she made that money. So maybe she'll get to that in a different video, but I'm not certain if she made it from actually teaching classes or maybe teaching on YouTube, or is it from certifications and stuff that she was selling in addition to being a yoga teacher.
You've probably dreamed of going online as a yoga teacher. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here on my page because that's what my page is all about. If that's your dream, that was my dream. And I did it. And I did it really successfully. In the first 3 years, I made $357,000, but it wasn't easy. Here's the thing I would do differently. From the very beginning, I would have had a sales funnel. Instead of trying to mess with websites and GoDaddy, whatever, I would have just went straight to the sales funnel because the sales funnel guides the customer through the journey. Now, if you've been looking to build an online business, that's all I talk about here. So tap the follow button. Let's build your online yoga empire.
Again, still unclear, but I will say this woman has mastered the same thing that any successful business coach of any kind does, and that is speaking to a very specific pain point that her ideal client is facing and presenting them with a solution that sounds almost too good to be true. Not to ruin the story that we're going to read or anything. I'm having trouble finding anything that really clearly articulates her experience, but this last video here is titled, I made $20 teaching yoga classes, so I stopped playing the game and made $357,000. So let's go ahead and see if maybe in this one she shares the secrets.
If you've been posting on Instagram or you've been working for free, or basically you're teaching yoga for free because you're only getting paid $20 a class and you're driving all over town and you're still wondering, how are people doing this and actually making a living? Let me tell you the secret. They're not. They're not doing that, because I am making a very good living online and I'm not doing that anymore.
You're also not teaching yoga anymore, from what I understand. You have a YouTube channel and you sell online teacher trainings, which is not the same as teaching yoga, but I'll let you continue.
And I've owned yoga studios and I've driven all over town for $20 a class. And I'm not doing that anymore. And now I consistently make six-figure years.
Again, you consistently make six-figure years not teaching yoga, but sorry, I'll stop.
I realized that most yoga teachers are failing, not because they're bad at teaching yoga. They think that they should be listening to their intuition. They think that spirit's going to guide them, or the perfect time is going to come. There ain't going to be a perfect time. The perfect time is when you make time. The end of your perfection is the beginning of your journey into abundance. If you want to start making a living as a yoga teacher in a way that's sustainable and that you love and you have happiness in your life and you're giving happiness to other people, I suggest that you click the link below and get started today. Don't wait for intuition to tell you. I'm telling you right now, this is the sign. This is the sign. He's giving you this video right now. This is the sign you've been waiting for. Click the link below and get started now.
Again, very misleading, in my opinion, for her to be saying, I'm a yoga teacher and I'm making over six figures a year. But if I literally go to her website, there is nowhere to purchase yoga classes. The only thing she sells on here is build your yoga empire, escape the studio. She has a 200-hour yoga teacher training, a 300-hour yoga teacher training. She sells a CEU class. So if you have a yoga teacher certification, you have to do a certain number of hours to like maintain your certification. So she offers a course that allows you to get some of those hours. And again, as someone who used to be in this industry, when I was mapping out, what is my 5-year plan for my business back when I thought I was going to teach yoga forever, this was on my sort of roadmap. I was working, I had just gotten my 500-hour certification during the pandemic. And so with the Yoga Alliance specifically, this is all coming from memory, so I'll be sure to pop the actual information up on the screen. But in order to open a yoga school, you had to be a 500-hour certified teacher, and then you had to have a certain number of teaching hours. So I was in the process of working towards accumulating those hours. I think it was like 1,000, but again, I'll fact check myself here on the screen. And so basically, my long-term plan was to create one of these sort of continuing education courses that I could offer to people to supplement my income. I'd be able to still teach yoga classes, but then also teach this continuing education course that other yoga teachers could use to maintain their certification. And why was I doing that? Because that would have been way more lucrative than me using my body to teach these classes and make money in exchange for my time. And I know we've sidebarred this whole story. We haven't even gotten into the actual scam story yet, and I'm just ranting. But it is so incredibly frustrating for me to watch someone who has done that. They're doing the business side of yoga. They're teaching yoga certifications and continuing education courses. But rather than be transparent and say, here's how I make a living as a yoga teacher, I actually teach other yoga teachers, they're making it sound like you, the person that wants to teach people how to do Shavasana, how to do downward dog, you're going to be the one that can make multiple six figures a year. When, unless you're Yoga with Adrienne and you have millions of subscribers here on YouTube, that's probably not going to be your reality if you're only teaching yoga classes. But alas, I digress. I'll get off my high horse. Let's get back to the story. I didn't book a call immediately because I knew anything that had a sales page that doesn't disclose the price is going to be expensive. Bingo. So I opted to binge her content. I watched all of her YouTube videos. I listened to her podcast. I consumed her reels, and she appeared to know what she was talking about. I started implementing some of her tips on creating social media content, and I began to think about the niche or target audience that I would like to serve through my online teaching. As a gay man, I've seen how much addictions of all kinds ravage the lives of my community. Yoga was a clear solution in my own recovery, so I wanted to bring that to the LGBT people. And what better way to do that than on the great connector, the internet? All that content consumption indoctrinated me, I think. It felt like she had the perfect solution for being able to offer yoga and make a living doing it. Something so many of us yoga teachers feel is impossible. I now see that she was preying on a core pain that yoga teachers experience. Yoga teachers and literally any other profession, any insert type of coach here, follows the exact same formula. Figure out why people aren't being successful in industry ABC, even coaching, the coaches that coach coaches. It's so hard to make a sustainable living as a life coach. So why not target life coaches and tell them that you have the secret to making millions of dollars as a life coach when you've actually only made money being a coach for other coaches? It's so fucking misleading, and it makes me really upset, if you can't tell. One day, I was served an ad of hers offering a free training on her framework for building an online yoga business, so I signed up. It wasn't a training. I now see it for what it was. A video sales letter. For people not familiar, a video sales letter disguises itself as a workshop or a masterclass teaching some kind of method without giving away the whole thing in order to prime you to book a call or purchase. I didn't realize that at the time. I watched the 20-minute video and was like, wow, this makes total sense. I need to learn more. I didn't immediately book the call. Within hours, I was inundated by text messages and emails. Stuff like,
there are no accidents in life. So if you got here, it's because you need this.
She started following me on Instagram. The love bombing began immediately. She began DMing me saying that she loved my content, thought I was doing so great, and that she knows she can help me take it to the next level. That's when I finally booked the call. As expected, the call was filled with high-pressure tactics. She love bombed me with praise for the current work I'm doing on my social accounts, while telling me that she can see gaps in my content and knows exactly how to fix them. She said something like, I don't know if your goal is to quit your 9-to-5 or not, before launching into how she made more than $300K her first year in business teaching online yoga. The implication was that if I could do it, you can do it too. I would like the record to show that the if I can do it, you can do it too mentality is dead. And I talk about it in this video here. Of course, I was sold. The promise of being able to make more than my regular salary teaching yoga online was the dream. She talked about making sales in my sleep and how much time that would free up in my life. I balked at the $9,000 price tag. It seemed pretty steep, even for working with someone one-on-one to build my course, my sales funnel, and my social media marketing. She countered my hesitation by saying something like,
I truly believe you found me for a reason. Sometimes you need to free up money in order for abundance to flow back to you.
What in the Gaslight Gatekeep girl boss is this? I'm sorry. This is like the business coaches that say, you need to invest in yourself to prove to the universe that you're ready to make more money. Guys, it's a high pressure sales tactic. And I can't believe these people can sleep at night telling people this information. She made it seem like her spaces were super limited and not very many people are accepted into her program because her time is precious. The sales tactics continued along these lines until I felt like, yeah, maybe she's right. Maybe I am in the right place at the right time. So I handed over my credit card number. Almost immediately, the experience stopped resembling what I thought I had purchased. I believed I was paying $9,000 for hands-on, individualized guidance from her to help me build an online yoga business, refining my offer, creating a course, reviewing my sales funnel, and helping me develop a marketing strategy. After all, the exclusivity of her program and the supposed value of her limited time had been repeatedly emphasized during the sales process. But during the entire 90 days, I never had a single private coaching call with her. The program included 6 one-on-one calls, every one of them conducted by a member of her team, and most never lasted more than 15 minutes. Usually these calls were generic check-ins that involved looking over action items that were assigned via pre-recorded video lessons. Stuff like creating a link in bio, writing a customer avatar for your ideal client, outlining your online course, writing your sales page, etc. I believed I was enrolling to work with a woman whose expertise, income claims, and personal attention had been used to sell me the program, not a rotating group of assistants. I swear, all of these coaches must follow the same handbook, the same playbook, the same 5-step formula. Create the offer, hire people that you can pay a fraction of the price to actually run the program. You get to rein in all the riches and laugh your way to the bank. This is so disappointing to hear, and I am truly sorry that you had this experience. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit pissed off. I built 2 complete sales pages while I was in the program. She never reviewed either one. That detail still shocks me. The sales page is where the offer is explained and where a potential customer decides whether to buy. Yet the person I had paid $9,000 to help me build and sell my online yoga program never once looked at the page where the actual selling was supposed to happen. My direct interactions with her were mostly random messages on my Instagram DMs. She would tell me my content is amazing, cheer me on, or say how excited she was about what I was creating. It felt encouraging in the moment, but it was not meaningful business guidance. She had praised my content before I paid her, told me during the sales call that she could see exactly what was missing, and then provided very little substantive feedback once she had my money. There were also group calls, but much of what I remember from them was listening to her talk about her success, her lifestyle, the freedom that her business had created for her. The dream was always being reinforced. What was missing was the close, practical insight I believed I was paying for. People don't pay this kind of money to listen to someone brag. They want real help. And this is the piece that I feel like these coaches must, I don't know, have amnesia and forget. And I honestly think this is indicative of something we're seeing in the online business space as a whole when it comes to pricing. And this, again, is just my opinion. I feel like so many online service providers are comfortable charging insanely, in my opinion, inflated prices for the services that they offer. And they often package it in under the guise of, it's high touch. I have ample experience. I'm so successful, therefore my knowledge is worth so much money. And so they charge, for lack of a better term, regular people these exorbitant fees, $9,000, for example, to then provide the most bare minimum surface level information versus, actually putting boots on the ground and truly helping people solve the problem that you promised to help them solve. It's like, how much money can I charge and do the absolute bare minimum and still be able to take the money and run? That's how it feels to me anyway. The basic strategy I was taught via her video lessons was to create an inexpensive digital offer. Mine was priced at $47, which I have subsequently discounted to $27, and sell it directly to consumers through social media content and advertising. But as I worked through the program, I began to recognize a glaring contradiction. She repeatedly used her extraordinary income as evidence that her method worked. Yet, she did not appear to have made those millions by selling low-cost yoga programs to ordinary consumers. She made her money by selling expensive business coaching to yoga teachers like me. Those are two completely different business models. Thank you. This is what I'm saying. This yoga business coach wants you to believe that you can make a livable or incredible even income as a yoga teacher when they themselves are making their income through selling you on the idea of making an income as a yoga teacher versus actually making that money as a yoga teacher themselves. And again, I'm saying this without full context. I don't know this yoga business coach's personal background. I only found out about them 10 minutes ago. So I haven't had time to, deep dive research into who they are and what they did before they became a yoga business coach. But I do remain highly skeptical that they had a successful yoga business. Otherwise, wouldn't that be sort of the forefront of your messaging with actual examples of what that looked like? I was being taught to sell a $47 yoga product while her own financial success came from charging aspiring yoga entrepreneurs thousands of dollars. The income used to establish her credibility did not appear to have been generated through the model I had paid her to teach me. In other words, the most obvious way to replicate her success would not be to teach yoga online, it would be to start selling high-ticket coaching to other yoga teachers. Here's where things got really bizarre. A couple weeks after handing her $9,000, she posted a reel saying, POV, you learned how easy it is to teach yoga online, so you went to Bali spontaneously. Okay, and the caption of this Instagram post reads, yoga teachers, you are your own worst enemy, and it's crazy because we are supposed to be the ones most in control of our minds, yet yoga teachers often don't believe in themselves at all. Why do you think you can't have everything you want? You know and I know that as yoga teachers, we have all the tools. The number one reason people fail is not because they don't believe in themselves. Self-doubt costs yoga teachers time, income, and opportunities. It makes them delay action, play small, undercharge, and disconnect from their purpose. You already have the tools. You teach people how to breathe, how to be present, how to quiet the noise. Turn those same tools on yourself. Stop talking in your head like a regular person without superpowers and start talking in your head like the manifesting magic goddess you are. Comment activated if you want my free video on exactly how yoga teachers like you can build your own yoga empire in 2026. Okay, again, giving the impression that you went to Bali because you are a yoga teacher when we know, this person, you watching this video, we know that you're making your money teaching yoga teachers, not teaching yoga online. So, okay, OP continues. At first, I didn't think much of it. She had posted something about the teacher she was going to see in Bali in her stories. I DM'd her to say that this person looks very culty, especially given the teacher's associations with the Osho cult. From there, during her trip, she proceeded to send me voice messages via DMs about how her experience was going. She even trauma dumped on me some of the cult-like aspects, the sexual nature of the retreat, and how uncomfortable some of the attendees made her feel. I don't know why I, a supported coaching client of hers, not a friend, needed these details. Personal and professional boundaries? Who's that? We don't know her here. The more I thought about that reel, the more infuriated I became about the serious financial investment that I had made. There was nothing easy about what I was attempting to build. I was creating content, developing a course, learning sales funnels, writing copy, running ads, and trying to earn the trust of an audience, all while working a full-time job. The reel presented online yoga as an effortless path to make money and freedom. Meanwhile, I had paid her more than many yoga teachers earn from hundreds of studio classes, and she had not even looked at my sales page. More than I paid for my 2 main yoga certifications, 200 hours and 300 hours combined. That reel crystallized the entire experience for me. The fantasy of teaching yoga online funded a very real, very lucrative coaching business. But the yoga teachers buying into that fantasy were taking on all the financial risk. I want to be fair about what I did receive. There were training materials, I had access to her team, I attended the calls, and I completed the work. This was not a case where someone took my payment and completely disappeared. But access to the materials and assistance was not what persuaded me to spend $9,000. Especially not after I discovered a few other yoga business consultants who offered similar courses for as little as $37. I'm thinking of one particular coach who sells a low-ticket offer training. I purchased because of her personal brand, her income claims, the implication of individualized attention, and the belief that her success demonstrated what was possible for a yoga teacher using the business model she promoted. What I received did not, in my opinion, justify the price or the promises surrounding it. I wrote an email to her at the end of the 90 days outlining what I just wrote here. Her response was to gaslight me into thinking that I got what I paid for, which was being part of her collective. And if I wanted one-on-one support directly from her, the price I would pay would have been more like $30,000, not $9,000. This disgusts me to my core. As a yoga teacher who truly lives the tenets of yoga, especially non-harming and non-stealing, I also take responsibility for ignoring the warning signs. I should have questioned the undisclosed price. I should have recognized the free training as a sales presentation. I should have slowed down when the text, emails, and Instagram messages started arriving. I should have been more skeptical when spiritual language about my abundance, destiny, and there being no accidents was introduced into a high-pressure financial decision. Listen, I'm all for personal responsibility for acknowledging the role that we take. You know, we're all adults here. That's what these coaches always say in my comment section. And no one's forcing you to buy anything. I get that. But I think oftentimes we tend to downplay the role that these manipulative behaviors and practices are playing in our ability to be discerning and to make logical, sound decisions. And so if I am a budding yoga teacher or I have a struggling yoga business, I am going to be much more susceptible to believe that this person who is presenting themselves as successful, they are sharing their personal experience, even if they're lying, explaining how they were once where I am and now look at how successful they are. Obviously, I'm going to be more inclined to believe them. And so when I'm making that decision to hand over $9,000 in this case, I'm not doing it from a place where I can be subjective and really analyze the situation for what it is. Yes, we can take responsibility and we can admit that we are the ones who ultimately made the decision. But I think it's important to also acknowledge the circumstances in which that decision was made. So I say all that specifically to OP that hopefully you're not beating yourself up too hard about this because you weren't really in a position, in my opinion, where you could make that decision from like a completely neutral position. But those tactics worked precisely because they were wrapped around a genuine pain. Exactly. Yoga teachers are routinely underpaid. Many of us teach because we believe deeply in the practice, but we struggle to make a sustainable living from it. We drive between studios, teach exhausting schedules, and watch other people profit from an industry built on our labor and devotion. The promise that we can finally make a real living and reach more people without destroying our bodies is extremely powerful. I had also found a purpose that mattered deeply to me. As a gay man in recovery, I wanted to use yoga to help other LGBTQ people struggling with addiction, shame, and emotional pain. I was not merely chasing passive income or a trip to Bali. I believed I was investing in a way to make meaningful work financially sustainable. That hope made me vulnerable. See, and this is an important piece too that I think I don't talk about enough, and I don't see enough people mentioning, is this idea that sometimes we are guided by a mission greater than ourselves. We have, this greater picture of this thing we're trying to build. In this case, you're trying to impact a specific community of people. And I think when we are so focused on achieving that goal, of setting that standard, of reaching that thing that we're trying to create, that can also create a level of like blinders that we put on that maybe will prevent us from seeing some of those red flags. So I do appreciate you for adding that in, because I think that that's often a neglected piece too that really does play a significant role in our decision-making abilities. Today, I'm embarrassed that I trusted her. I am angry that I allowed myself to be pressured into making such a large purchase, but I also understand that embarrassment is one of those reasons these stories remain hidden. People do not want to admit that persuasive marketing, personal attention, and promises of abundance worked on them. I am sharing this because I believe the online coaching industry deserves greater scrutiny, especially when coaches use spiritual language, aspirational lifestyle marketing, and exceptional revenue claims to sell expensive programs to underpaid professionals. I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I made the decision and I handed over my card, but I do believe people deserve to see what happened after the sales call ended. And I would like to say that I absolutely agree. I think there is often so much shame associated with our experiences in the industry. I think it can often take people a long time to even come to terms with the fact that they were scammed in the first place. I know this is something I've talked about when I shared my story here on the channel. I spent probably years thinking like, oh no, it was my fault. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh, this, oh, that. And then one day something kind of clicked and I was like, wait a minute, this was completely misleading. And I was falsely led into believing that I was getting something that wasn't what I paid for. And again, well, yes, I can take personal responsibility. I'm an adult. I make my own decisions. There is also the role of manipulative marketing, love bombing, and all of that sort of thing that lead you to make these certain decisions. So thank you so much for taking the time to submit this story. I do believe this individual posted the same story on Reddit as well, so I will make sure to have that thread linked in the description if you prefer to leave them your feedback directly. As always, you can share your thoughts for this individual in the comments here on YouTube as well. And if you're watching this video and you have your own scam story that you want me to potentially read out here on the channel, the form where you can submit it is linked in the description of every single video I post. I want to give a big shout out to our channel VIP members. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Take care, comb your hair, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.